can still do shift work and have a creative mind though. And I think that would allow the shift work to even improve itself.
Yeah, because if I'm cooking fries, dude, I can tell you what, I'm cooking the best freaking fries you've ever had.
That's right. The public school system just takes out the creative mind. It eliminates it. And I personally think it's on purpose. They teach you that failure is bad. You fail a test. They focus. It's all test focused. You fail a test, well, you might be held back. They teach you that you can't. And this is an interesting concept that I just heard a little while ago the other day. In school, if you work together on a project that you're not supposed to work together on, that's cheating. If you work together on a test, that's cheating. But in the real world, business leaders, they get together and like, hey, let's figure this out together. Is that cheating? Or is that collaborating?
Yeah.
I don't know. Everything's backwards in my mind with the public school system, everything.
So I've been very open about what I think about the public school system. Yeah. And so this last year I started, I don't know, I get like down the road of, and this is what gets me in trouble because I have too many things already going on.
Right.
But I'll get down the road of like this, like bagging on public school system. And then it'll hit me one day of like, okay, well, what can Derick Stahlei do to change that? And probably not a lot, but like I should be able to do something.
Right.
And so then I reached out to a couple teachers that I know are still in the school system I had.
You're going toward, you're trying to change the whole system. So good for you.
So you're actually someone I was going to talk to about all this. So I guess we'll just have that conversation now. So at the end of last year, or I guess in January, I told myself like, hey, I don't even have a kid in school. Right.
Right.
But I think like, hey, if there's anything I can do to help out those kids because regardless, there's kids that are stuck in the public school system. Right. I mean,
it's not for everyone and not everyone can do it.
Right. And like, so with that said, what you said and what I agree with is not everyone's in the position to, that takes me down a whole nother rabbit hole of like, then get in the position. Right. But let's just say that you're not in the position. People do have normal, like my wife. I mean, she goes to the hospital and she works at the hospital and like she couldn't homeschool a kid with her schedule, right? She's on call. They're the trauma team in orthopedic surgery but like I can, right? And so I just kind of thought like, well, what can I do? Because there are kids that the only place they get love, dude, is their teachers at school.
That's true.
There are kids that the only time they eat is lunch. Like there are kids that do benefit from school.
Yeah.
And so I thought, what could I do to try and help? What could, Dogtown raised Derick Stahlei do? And so I reached out to a couple teachers and was like, hey, I've got a little background in business. I've been through some stuff like talking about my dad and, I've failed in businesses. What I deem as I'm on the track to being successful in business.
Yeah, right.
I've gotten to a little real estate recently. And so I was like, this is kind of my background. Is there any business teachers, health teachers, real estate teachers, that I could come in and talk to a class and maybe they take something from it.
Right.
And so I reached out to Renee Martineau, who I'm actually going to get her on here one of these times. We were supposed to do it during the summer and then I didn't get her on.
Is she a teacher then?
So her first year of teaching was my senior year.
Oh, at Pineview?
At Pineview. And so she student taught. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
So she was a student teacher for Shaw.
Oh, okay.
For Coach Shaw, Todd Shaw. Love you, Coach.
Yep.
If you're listening.
We love public school.
Yeah. And so she was there. It was funny because she was there with the last name Brinkerhoff, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And then the next year, like I'm senior, all of us senior mentalities of running the school, right? I get this teacher on 2 different classes, Martineau. And I'm like, dude, all my family went to Pineview. Like, I'm not having a teacher I didn't know.
I don't know.
And so I went into the counseling office and I'm like, hey, we need to switch these around. I'm not, we need to get a different teacher for health and economics or whatever it was. And then they're like, okay, like we'll switch, like we'll work with you. Just go for a couple days while we're ironing out all these other issues with other students.
Right.
And so I'm like, whatever. And so I go in the first day and it's what I knew of Miss Brinkerhoff is now she got married during the summer. Yeah. So now she's Miss Martineau.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so I walked in, I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like,
my teacher?
I'm teaching. And so anyway, I've always had a great relationship with her.
That's cool.
I ended up having her for 3 different classes my senior year, and I've always just kept in contact. It seems like we bump into each other every now and then. So anyway, I reach out to her and I'm like, hey, I've got this idea. I want to help. I don't know how. These are some of the things I could talk about. This is my background. If there's anything I can do, let me know. And like that night, she messes me back and she's like, I'm going to link you up with the business teacher. She was at Crimson. She was a assistant principal at Crimson at the time, or last year. Mm-hmm. So she got me hooked up with the teacher there. I'd gone in and spoke in her entrepreneurship class.
For real.
And then I stayed and spoke in I think I did sports marketing first and then entrepreneurship. And then I went back, spoke again. And then she hooked me up with the guy at Pineview, where we went, right? Yeah. You went to Pineview. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. We went to Pineview and I went and spoke there. I stayed through lunch and spoke again.
That's fantastic.
So my goal was 12 classes.
12 classes.
Because I was like, 1 a month, not a big deal. And then you forget you got summer.
Right.
So now I got to double it up. And then after those first times, I'm already at 7 classes. So I'm pretty much I could line up 1 or 2 more days and be done. And now Miss Martineau just got, I don't know, transferred, sent, moved, whatever the word is, to Hurricane.
Oh, really?
And so I've already talked to her. I talked to her the other day.
That's fantastic. It's a mindset I don't have. I'm like, I'm going to take my kids out of there and not even worry about it. But
well, dude, I don't think I'm going to put my kid in public school either. But like I said, when my mind kind of got going on okay, there were kids that we went to school with. I'm sure that that's when they ate. Right. I mean, what's the numbers, dude? 1 in 3 kids don't have food at home. Yep. So I think there is a huge purpose. You couldn't just shut it down.
Right.
There's too many kids that's where they get love. That's where they get food. That's where they get structure. That's where there are some benefits for some kids. With that said, I think with the life that Amanda and I have built and what's freed me up to control my schedule, I'll probably homeschool my kid. Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah. And total disclaimer, I think all the teachers that I've ever had are amazing. It's just so much red tape from government up. And that's what's hard about public school. But with homeschool is, people think that you need to teach your kid 4 or 5 hours a day. We teach our kids 1 to 2 hours a day, and that's all it takes. And I think with that one-on-one time versus having 30 kids in a class, it really just shrinks down the time that is required to teach your kids. I think it's...
So take me through how this even works, because I wouldn't even know where to start if I was just I'm going to homeschool my kids, and now what?
Each state's different. Some states don't even allow you to homeschool. And if you do, you have to hire...
California?
Yeah. And if you do, in some of those states, if they do allow it, you have to hire an actual teacher to come to your home and teach. So it kind of defeats the purpose of the parent wanting to teach the kid. But in Utah's pretty good. All you have to do is send a notice into the Washington County School District, letting them know that you're going to homeschool your kids. And that's it. There's no testing required. There's no follow-up from any administrators or anything that have to come in and check on the work you're doing. So a lot of people are like, well, that's kind of sketchy, but is it? I mean,
well, I personally want my kid to succeed.
Exactly. We're not going to, and I get it. Like you said, there are those small situations where there probably are some homeschooling parents that they're too lazy to send their kids to public school and they want to keep them home. And I'm sure there's some abuse, negligence that goes on, but
selfishness,
a lot of that stuff.
They're doing it for them, not the kid.
Exactly. But yeah, no, that's all. Yeah. And there's a lot of programs out there. I don't want to name any good programs, but the Good and the Beautiful is a program that works really well. My wife was actually, she was a preschool teacher. That's what she went to school for. And she taught preschool for quite a few years. And then, she comes from a background of her mom was a teacher and stuff. And so she married me, and I had already had it in my mind before we had kids that I did not want to put my kids in public school. We We don't vaccinate. We're one of those parents where we're just kind of crazy.
Just winging it.
And so I told my wife, I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. And she's like, why? Are you serious? We have to. Everyone's going to think we're weird. That's okay.
You let them.
But it's funny because after she taught in a public school setting for a few years, she actually saw herself, and I didn't have to convince her. She's like, you know what? My hands are tied with so many things. I can't do this. I can't get creative. I can't teach this way. It's all about what they make us teach. And that's kind of what bugged me.
Yeah.
You know, we're the parents, and I feel like it's just one more thing that the state, the government, whatever you want to call it, is trying to take away from parents, the ability to mold their kids how they see best. It's not the state's job. It's my job. And so, but like, you know, it doesn't work. It's not for everyone. It doesn't work for everyone. So I understand that.
So is there like, when they're 17, 18, is there, I mean, if they want to get a GED, like how does that work? Do they even need one anymore?
Yeah, no, you can get your GED, and it's all through the.
So just like you would anyway, right?
Yep, exactly.
So you wouldn't have a high school diploma.
No,
but they're interchangeable now.
Exactly.
Right.